Spring is in the air, fight fans, and that means allergies mainly, but it's supposed to represent rebirth. And with ONE, PFL, and Bellator back on the live MMA menu this month, it feels like things are almost back to normal. Almost. Anyway, there's a ton of high-profile fights scheduled for this month, but you already know about those. Let's talk about the fights that aren't so well known, but could have huge implications down the line. The fights that are for the future. The fights you can impress your MMA friends with knowledge of, or at the very least enjoy a bit more when they pop up on fight night. And they're in chronological order, so do mark your calendar as we go along. I'm Tommy from MMA On Point, and these are 10 under-the-radar fights to watch in April. Number 10. AZAMAT KEREFOV versus RASUL ALBASKHANOV. We kick things off with a flyweight that's topped all the prospect lists. We're talking about a legit potential title contender here. It's not a matter of if, but when he's snatched up by one of the major promotions. Some are even ranking him as a top 10 talent already. He is AZAMAT KEREFOV. The unbeaten Russian has won 14 straight since entering the MMA scene in 2014. He's only 28, so he's got plenty of time to make a major run. He's kicking things off this month with a flyweight title defense at ACA 121 against RASUL ALBASKHANOV on April 9th. He's not been racking up wins against the C squad either. Nearly every opponent has had a strong record. He's got a great grappling base, but he's sharp all around. KEREFOV doesn't have a ton of finishes, but the talent is undeniable. This isn't a guy that's going to get passed up because of some decisions. With flyweight absolutely popping again in the UFC, this is 100% somebody that could make an impact in the division immediately, or maybe he could go to ONE and do some damage in whatever flyweight is over there now. A potential challenger for DJ. You'll definitely want to get a look at what AZAMAT has to offer early this month. Number 9. Dalton ROSTA versus Tony Johnson. Next, we're at Bellator. They're finally back, now exclusively on Showtime. Not sure how I feel about that, but I am sure you're going to want to check out Dalton ROSTA at Bellator 256 on April 9th. You know when Bellator signs a dude with 0 pro fights so they can water and nourish him into a star, you should be taking notice. After an AMI career where he went 7-0 with 7 finishes, all KO TKOs, Bellator signed the middleweight and he's won 4 straight since then in the promotion with 3 finishes, 2 in the first round. ROSTA trains out of American Top Team, so you know he's got some good people around him. Bellator just re-upped on his contract not too long ago. They clearly see something there as well. He'll be facing his toughest competition thus far without question at 256, Tony Johnson. He has more pro experience than every one of his opponents combined. He trains out of AKA, he had a win on Dana White's Contender Series. This is going to be a really tough test, but should he pass it, ROSTA might be off to the races in 2021. They booked him twice last year despite all the insanity, and he's called out Dylan Danis, so he clearly understands how to play the game outside the cage as well. This month's fight will show us if he's ready for a bump up in competition. Number 8. ALIASKHAB KHIZRIEV versus DAUKAUS. Our next interesting prospect has the coolest nickname on this month's list. He's the Black Wolf ALIASKHAB KHIZRIEV, and he's making his promotional debut at UFC on ABC 2 on April 10th. The Russian fighter made quick work of his opponent on the Contender Series last September, scoring a rear naked choke in just 50 seconds against Henrique Shigemoto to move his record up to 13-0 and earn his contract with the UFC. He also has a 58-second TKO victory over everybody's favorite MMA villain, Rousimar Palhares. He has 7 first-round finishes, in fact, and 5 of those came in the first minute. The guy has places to be besides the cage. During the Contender Series contract announcements, Dana White didn't really have much of anything to say because it was so obvious that KHIZRIEV should be in the UFC, and they're definitely ready to test him in his debut. He'll be fighting 10-1 DAUKAUS, the former CFFC middleweight champion and fellow Contender Series winner. He's gone 1-1 in the UFC thus far, but an intriguing matchup to start nonetheless. The Black Wolf has the grappling prowess to stifle anybody at 185 pounds who isn't versed enough to keep the fight standing, and when you factor in his ability to more than handle himself on the feet, the middleweight division might have a real problem on its hands. Number 7. Lance Gibson Jr. versus Marcus Surin. I know what you're thinking. Hey, Lance Fearless Gibson, he fought in Super Brawl, Shudo in the UFC. Didn't he retire in 2002? He doesn't have a fight this month. You're right, super knowledgeable MMA fan, he doesn't. But his son, Lance Fearless Gibson Jr., is competing in April at Bellator 257. Oh, also Julia Budd is his stepmom, and she helps coach him as well. How many son, stepmother, father combinations have there been in MMA? I'm gonna go ahead and say absolutely 0 without even checking, because there's no way. And while I could see the potential to cry nepotism given the circumstance, Gibson Jr. junior has made his way to Bellator at 3-0 with 3 first-round finishes, including his debut against Dominic Jones, so he's doing everything right thus far. With 2 canceled bouts in 2020 due to COVID, the prospect will finally return April 16th against Marcus SURIN on the Bellator 257 prelims. Fearless was an All-American wrestler at Arizona State University. The kid has literally lived in MMA gyms his entire life. He said he started training at 2. He considers his background simply mixed martial arts. Reminds me a bit of Habib's backstory in that way. He's just been surrounded by the sport since the day he was born. Hard to replicate that kind of experience. At 25 years old, he's got plenty of room to grow. I'm excited to see him compete this month in Bellator and going forward. Very interesting story. Number 6. NATAN LEVY versus Austin Hubbard. We are back in the UFC for another debut, this time at Vegas 24 on the 17th. NATAN LEVY, out of Syndicate MMA, is being primed for stardom. Dana White could barely contain his excitement, in fact, as he talked about him following his Contender Series bout. LEVY is an exciting fighter. He's got the look, and as one of only a few Israelis to ever be signed by the UFC, the promotion's always looking to create Conor McGregor-like buzz in new markets. NATAN was 5-0 going into his Contender Series bout against fellow unbeaten Shaheen Santana, up a weight class on 5 days' notice. Actually, it was a catchweight bout, so he was up 15 pounds against a guy that was over 6 feet tall, and he completely dominated the fight, scoring an arm triangle to earn the victory early in the 3rd round. He put the man to sleep. LEVY will stay at lightweight for his debut against Austin Hubbard on the prelims for Vegas 24. The karate-based fighter moved to Las Vegas to chase his MMA dream and went pro in 2018, signing with UFC feeder LFA. Although he was also offered a contract with Bellator, definitely has the it factor. His Bright Lights debut should be a telling one. Number 5. ANATOLY MALYKHIN versus AMIR ALIAKBARI. Oh, awesome, One Championship isn't pre-taping all their cards this month, so we can talk about some of their up-and-coming talent. Well, perhaps up-and-coming isn't the best way to describe ANATOLY MALYKHIN. He will be headlining the TNT card against AMIR ALIAKBARI on the 21st, but more than anything, that shows that one knows they have a potential star on their hands in the undefeated Russian heavyweight prospect. At a perfect 9-0 with 9 finishes, including a former 1 title contender in his debut for the promotion against Alexander Machado, ANATOLY could be a problematic heavyweight. He has a very strong grappling background, a bronze medalist in the 2013 Russian Freestyle Wrestling Championships, but more interestingly, he has taken time to train at Tiger Muay Thai and work on his stand-up game. With his freaky athleticism and his top-tier wrestling, if he learns how to strike, it's going to be a big problem. He'll have a huge test in the Olympic-level wrestling of ALIAKBARI, which is part of what makes this fight so intriguing. We may get to see just how much his striking has improved. A win here will quickly put MALYKHIN's name at the top of the contenders list, a talent you could easily see in the UFC's top 10, definitely a fight you'll want to watch. Number 4. Mavlid Khabalaev versus Jason Soares. After a year away because of the pandemic, the PFL is finally returning on April 23rd, and to celebrate there's a pairing of featherweight prospects on the main card I think you should definitely check out. 15-0 Mavlid Khabalaev will be taking on 14-0 Jason Soares, and these are definitely 2 to keep an eye on. Probably most well known for the nasty jumping knee finish of Damon Jackson in the PFL's 2019 season, Khabalaev has all the tools to be a featherweight title contender in any promotion, be it the PFL, Bellator, or the UFC. The Dagestani's grappling is top tier, but in addition, he's got some serious power and some sharp striking. About as well-rounded as you're going to see a fighter with 16 pro bouts. With 9 finishes, many of them in the first round, Mavlid gets to work fast. He's fought plenty of really solid talent, but what I like about this bout with Soares is he's another prospect that could be UFC bound after his stint in the PFL. Back in 2015, he tried for the Ultimate Fighter up a weight class, but came up short of getting into the house. Otherwise, he's been perfect, 12 finishes in his 14 wins. He was the Titan FC champion, defending his title 3 times before COVID hit. It's a matchup of future top-tier featherweights, definitely an underrated fight on that first PFL card. Number 3. UGONOH versus Thomas NARMO. We're heading to Poland for KSW 60, and there's an under-the-radar heavyweight that is intriguing as hell, and you're absolutely going to want to see what he's got. Training out of the same gym as the legendary Polish champion Jan Błachowicz, UGONOH is about as new to the MMA scene as it gets, with only a single professional fight. But potential here is off the charts. At 6'5" with an 84-inch reach, UGONOH looks like $1 million in the cage, but what's really intriguing is his 20 professional boxing bouts. Trained in the sweet science by Olympic silver medalist Kevin Barry, there's no doubt that UGONOH has elite-level striking, and with 15 KOs in his 18 wins, the power to put his opponents away. He's also been training in kickboxing since he was a child, competing as an amateur in his 20s, and capturing several titles. With his massive size and athleticism, his striking ability, and a solid gym behind him like WCA Fight Team, the sky is the limit. Now, his pro debut was a bit of a wash. His opponent injured himself during a scramble, but he's back at KSW 60 on the 24th, and this is absolutely someone you're going to want to keep an eye on. Number 2, RONG versus Rodrigo Vargas. Part of the UFC Combine program, a talent evaluation platform designed to find the next top prospects from China, RONG skipped a spot on the Contender Series and has gone straight to the UFC roster. He'll be making his debut at UFC 261 on April 24th. RONG is only 21 years old, but he already has 20 professional bouts. The reigning WLF lightweight champion prior to his signing, the 17-3 prospect is on a current 10-fight win streak, with 16 of his victories coming via stoppage. He'll be taking on Rodrigo Vargas on the prelims. Vargas is a 2-fight UFC vet with losses in both bouts. The second, though, is because of an illegal knee. Should be an interesting test, but it feels like the UFC is expecting a big debut from RONG. You're talking about a talent that has been specifically trained by the UFC in the Performance Institute to be a UFC caliber fighter. He's been destroying his opponents since entering the program back in 2019, scoring 4 first-round finishes in his 6 wins since then. And at such a young age with so much experience already, the sky is the limit for RONG. Absolutely someone to look out for going forward. Number 1. Stephen Loman versus John Lineker. We round out the month by heading back to one championship, this time on the TNT 4 card that's going down on the 28th. Brave CF Bantamweight champion Stephen Loman was snatched up by one, and he's going to be making his debut on the big stage against an absolute beast of a veteran in John Lineker. That's a tough first fight, but Loman looks to be up to the challenge. At 14-2 with his last loss coming 5 years ago, the 5-time Brave CF Bantamweight champion has fought some pretty stiff competition thus far on the regional scene, and hails from LEVY Central Gym in the Philippines, a team that's had 5 different champions in one. Media members have been calling for him to be picked up by the UFC for years, but with his gym's ties to one, it makes sense he ended up there. With strong grappling and power when he needs it on the feet, he's dangerous no matter where the fight goes, but he definitely prefers it on the ground. Lineker's had a little bit of a career resurgence after losing to Corey Sandhagen and moving to one. He's scored 2 wins in a row, including a TKO of former divisional champion Kevin Bellenyoung. It shows you the level of talent they expect Loman to be, a must-watch fight on that card.